There is no music. That's the first thing the neighbors noticed. No drum, no fiddle, no festival. Just a woman, alone in the street, dancing as though her life depended on it. She had been dancing since the day before. She would dance through the night. By the end of the week, dozens would join her, and within a month, the city of Strasbourg would be watching nearly 400 of its own people dance themselves into the ground. Some of them would not stop until they died. This is one of the best documented mysteries in European history. It happened, the records survive, and for 500 years, no one could explain it. Today, we can. To understand why a city would dance itself to death, you have to understand what kind of summer this was. Strasbourg, 1518, was a place living on its nerves. The harvests had failed. Bread had become something you fought for. Disease moved through the poor quarters like weather, smallpox, syphilis, a sweating sickness that could kill a healthy man between breakfast and dusk. And the people here carried a particular fear in the back of their minds. They believed in a saint named Vitus, and they believed that if you angered him, Saint Vitus could curse you, not with plague, not with fire, with dancing, a compulsion to move that you could not control, that would seize your body and not let go. To them, this was not a metaphor. It was a real and present danger, the way we might fear a stroke. So hold those two facts together, because the whole mystery turns on them. A population pushed to the edge of what a human mind can endure, and a deep, shared belief that the punishment for sin might be to dance until you dropped. In July, a woman whose name comes down to us as Frau Trophäa stepped into the street outside her home and began to dance. There was no occasion, no music. She simply started, and she did not stop. She danced for the better part of a week, through the heat of the day, through the cold of the night. Her feet bruised, then split, then bled, and still her body moved, as if something else had taken hold of the controls. And then the truly strange thing happened. Her neighbors began to join her. Within a week, around 34 people were dancing. Within a month, as many as 400. This was not celebration. Witnesses described people who looked terrified, who screamed for help even as their limbs kept moving, who begged to be made to stop, and could not stop themselves. And here is where the city made its catastrophic mistake. The authorities called in physicians. The physicians ruled out the supernatural. They decided this was a natural illness caused by hot blood overheating the brain. And the cure for hot blood, they reasoned, was simple. The afflicted simply needed to dance it out of their system. So the city cleared its guild halls. It built a stage. It hired musicians and paid able-bodied dancers to keep the sufferers moving, believing that the faster they danced, the sooner they'd be cured. They were, in effect, pouring fuel on the fire. People began to die, from strokes, from heart attacks, from sheer exhaustion. Their hearts giving out after days of movement no human body is built to sustain. Now, the exact death toll is one thing we genuinely can't be certain of. The surviving figures are frustratingly vague, and the dramatic claim of 15 a day comes from later retellings, not eyewitnesses. But that people died is not in doubt. Only when the dancing was finally stopped, when the survivors were loaded into wagons and carried to a shrine to beg for absolution, did the epidemic begin slowly to burn itself out. So what actually happened here? Let's work the case. Theory 1. Poison. The most popular explanation for decades was ergot, a toxic mold that grows on damp rye and contains compounds chemically related to LSD. Eat the contaminated bread, the theory goes, and you'd hallucinate, convulse, and lose control of your body. It's a tidy answer. It's also almost certainly wrong. Because ergot poisoning doesn't make you dance. It constricts the blood vessels in your limbs so severely that it causes gangrene, the rotting of fingers and toes. People with ergotism can barely walk, let alone dance for days. The poison theory collapses under its own evidence. Theory 2. A cult. Some have suggested a heretical sect dancing in deliberate protest. But the records are clear. These people did not want to dance. They wept. They pleaded. There is no leader here, no belief being acted out on purpose. So if it wasn't poison in the bread, and it wasn't a choice, what reaches into hundreds of bodies and makes them move against their will? Theory 3. The mind. The leading modern explanation comes from the historian John Waller, and it brings us right back to those two facts from the start. This was, almost certainly, an outbreak of what we now call mass psychogenic illness, sometimes called mass hysteria. A real physical set of symptoms produced not by a toxin, but by extreme psychological stress, spreading through a group by suggestion. Remember the conditions: a population starved, sick, and pushed past breaking point. Now add the one ingredient that turns distress into dancing. That deep, unquestioned belief that Saint Vitus could seize a sinner's body and force it to move. When a mind is under that much strain, and it already carries a template for how a breakdown is supposed to look, the body can slip into a kind of involuntary trance, a dissociative state, where it does exactly what the surrounding culture has told it to fear. And it's contagious. Not biologically, psychologically. Watch a neighbor you trust succumb to the very fate everyone dreads, while you stand in the same square, half-starved and terrified. And your own overloaded mind can tip over the same edge. One dancer becomes 30, 30 becomes 400. And the city's cure? The stage, the musicians, the hired dancers? It didn't just fail. By surrounding the sufferers with more dancing, the authorities reinforced the very thing driving the outbreak. They built the perfect machine for spreading it. So here is where the evidence lands. The dancing plague of 1518 was real. Hundreds of people did dance, uncontrollably, for days. Some of them did die. It was not a poison, and it was not a performance. The strongest explanation, the one that fits the documents, the conditions, and what we now understand about the mind under unbearable strain, is that this was a mass psychogenic outbreak, shaped into the form of dancing by a culture that already believed in a saint who could make you dance. We should be honest about the edges. We can't confirm the exact death count. Some of the vivid details come from chroniclers writing after the fact. The past doesn't hand us a clean confession, but the core of it holds. A starving, frightened city, and a belief waiting in the dark for the right moment to make hundreds of bodies move as one. There's one last detail I can't quite leave alone. Strasbourg wasn't the only one. Outbreaks of compulsive, contagious dancing were recorded across Europe for centuries, before and after, flaring up in town after town, then vanishing as mysteriously as they came. And the mechanism behind them? A group of distressed people slipping together into involuntary symptoms by sheer force of suggestion. And it never went away. Mass psychogenic illness still happens. It is swept through schools and workplaces in our own lifetimes. Sudden, spreading symptoms with no physical cause that doctors can find. Appearing in exactly the conditions that 1518 would recognize. Stress, fear, and the quiet, contagious power of watching it happen to someone next to you. The people of Strasbourg believed a saint was reaching into their bodies. We know better now. The unsettling part is that the thing that was reaching in is still here.